Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Join us on the Patreon. Wednesday, January 15th, I'm headlining the Madhouse Comedy Club in San Diego, 2025. Tickets will be on sale soon. So, yeah, guys, buy your tickets, support me. And I'm working on that new hour special. And it's for sure, that new hour special is for sure going to be out. I'm going to say 2026 for sure, but I'm going to try and film it late 2025 and maybe try and up it. But for those who don't know, I was filming another hour special and then I just got heckled like crazy and I couldn't use any of that footage. And then the club that I was going to do it at closed down, so it kind of backtracked me a little. But it's all good. It's going to be great. So come out January 15th, San Diego. And then that weekend, I'm going to be at Irvine Improv with TJ Miller. So get your tickets there at www.irvine.improv.com, or you could go to www.tjmillerdoesnothaveawebsite.com. Very excited for this guest. You've seen him on the Jamie Foxx show. You've seen him on Don't Be a Menace, Scary Movie 2. The great Suli McCullough is going to be here, and it's going to be great. I'm very excited. You guys are going to enjoy it. So become a Patreon, share, rate, review on Apple Podcasts. Help us get those reviews up. That would really help the show out a lot. All right, guys, enjoy Reza Riffs with Suli McCullough.
From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
Hey, Suli.
What's up, dude? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Of course, man.
Yeah,
do I need headphones or does it sound okay?
That sounds great. That
Awesome.
sounds awesome. I just got your email and I was reading it, and I think this is fascinating. You're an avid basketball fan.
I'm an avid basketball fan.
Holy Lord. Explain to the folks what avid means.
Well, avid means I'm borderline obsessed.
Oh my God.
I mean, look behind me. There's sneakers here. I have mini a basketball in my house. I play. I watch it. I'm into it, dude.
Who's your team?
I'm a Clippers fan.
Oh, nice.
Yes, that's a little unorthodox, and I've been a Clippers fan for a long time. I when I was in college, one of my buddies ended up playing for the Clippers.
Oh, nice.
When they were back at the sports arena, so a long time ago, and the Clippers were not popular at all. They stunk.
Yeah.
And I would go to the games to support him, and there were so few people there that when I would walk to the seats, like he could see me walking to the seats.
Yeah.
And so he was in shoot around. This is my buddy Pooh Richardson. He was in shoot around.
I was actually going to say, was it Pooh Richardson? Because I know he went to UCLA and you went to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, it was Pooh Richardson.
Oh my gosh.
And dude, so I go to sit in my seats, right? He sees me in shoot around. And he's like, yo, Suli, what's up? He goes, you staying? Right?
Yeah.
Like you staying at the start of the game. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm staying. But that's how bad the Clippers were at that time.
Oh, yeah.
They would only sell out one game back then. They would sell out the whenever they played Chicago, and they only played Chicago once.
Because they come to LA, yeah.
Yes. So they play the Lakers, they play the Clippers, and the Clipper game would sell out. And I remember the one year they ran out of food at concessions at halftime because they weren't used to selling out a Clipper game.
Yeah.
So that's where my Clipper love started. I've had my heart broken so many times by the Clippers.
Yeah.
Now I'm still a fan, but I'm a more like measured fan. You know what I mean? Where I go into it with no expectations. Whatever happens, happens. And I've given my kids permission to not be Clipper fans.
Oh my God. So like you and Billy Crystal are the only celebrities that like the Clippers. This is awesome.
I think there's a few more of us than Billy Crystal.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be in that club. Sure. Sure. There's actually like a few comics that are Clipper fans. Alonzo Bowden's a Clipper fan.
Yeah.
Um, there's Richard at the Comedy and Magic Club, the manager of the Comedy and Magic Club. He's a Clipper fan.
Maybe
There's
that's how I could get in there. Just tell him I like the
Dude,
Clippers.
you know what? That's a starting point. You
Oh
didn't
my
hear it
God.
from me,
Okay.
but that might be your in.
We're gonna have to edit that out then because
Yes.
if he listens to this.
This is the secret tip on how you get in at the Comedy and Magic Club. Just start randomly talking about the Clippers. I would go, you know what? You might want to just bring a bobblehead with you.
Oh my God, that's
bobblehead.
Yeah, he's the best Clipper right now, I feel.
He's the healthiest.
Yeah.
The healthiest.
We're going to talk about comedy soon, but we have to talk about this for a second.
Okay.
Your best 5 Clipper, like if you could pick everyone who's ever played in position.
All-time Clippers? Yo,
all
dude,
time.
that's an amazing question. And I actually have 5 Clippers. Well, I'm going to put Pooh in there just because
he's your buddy,
my boy, and Pooh was great. He was great in his time. Okay. Like it was so amazing to go to school with somebody and then get drafted. Like I think he was the 10th pick overall. So he was in the top 10. Like it was,
I kind of have to Google this. I'm sorry.
Please do. He might have been higher than 10. He might have been like 7, but I think he was like the 10th pick overall.
Okay.
Yeah, please Google it.
Because because that was the time where I was watching basketball. So
yeah.
Okay.
This has already started on a great note. The fact that I get to really talk about the Clippers in good and bad is fantastic.
You're gonna laugh, but so far, this Pooh Richardson's the only NBA player that doesn't show his draft pick.
Really?
Okay, 1989. First round, 10th pick. You were right.
I was.
Oh my God.
I tried to up it too. I tried to up it just a little bit. Like I was like, well, maybe it was the 7th pick, but he's the 10th pick. That's awesome. That's great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You won a new car.
You won Clipper tickets.
Okay, so I think Pooh was a shooting guard, right?
Yes, Pooh is a point guard, shooting guard. Yeah, and this is just the 5 that I like. So 5 all time, right?
Right.
I'm going to put Elton Brand in there because that dude was awesome.
Okay.
Number 42, Elton Brand. I'm going to put. People may not remember this, but Dominique Wilkins spent 1 year as a Clipper.
Does that count though?
Yes, it counts. Okay. Yes, it counts. This is my list.
It is your list. You're right. I apologize.
And the reason I'm putting him in there because that's when I was going to games. He was there for a year. The team was bad, but every now and again there would be this great Clipper highlight from Dominique, and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, he plays on the team." So he's in there. And then I got 2 more picks. I'm gonna go PG, of course. Because I thought PG was great. I met him at a Wingstop one day. Nice. After picking my son up from school, and my son didn't want to go get Wingstop. So as a dad, I went to go do that while he got to chill at home. And PG was at the Wingstop. So we had a great little moment where I was a fan of his. He was a fan of mine. So that was very cool. So PG's in there. That's 4, right?
And that was the moment you realized your son hates you.
Well, my son was very jealous after that. When I got home, I was like, yo, I just met PG. And so I think for about 4 months after that, he went with me on errands. So my 5th Clipper, I should go Kawhi because he's the one that's making the most money.
Right.
Yeah, I'll go Kawhi. And then my 6th man is Sean Livingston.
Oh, I love Sean Livingston.
Yes. Oh, you know what? I forgot Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom was a great
He's in mine. I was going to name
He's in
mine.
yours?
Yeah. So
Okay.
point guard, I was going to say Baron Davis.
Ooh, that's a good one. And I went to UCLA. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But I took Boo.
Yeah. I'm going to say his last name wrong, but for shooting guard, I was going to say Corey Maggette.
Maggette, yeah, Corey Maggette. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then I was going to say Lamar Odom.
Yeah.
I was going to say Elton Brand, but you picked him, so I have to pick someone else.
Yes.
Who I don't want to say Blake Griffin because honestly, I didn't really think he was a good Clipper. I just think he was entertaining.
He was great that first year. He was great. The year after he got hurt, like his second year technically, but his first year, he was really fun. Like I think I had a half a season that year.
Yeah.
And the games that I couldn't go to, I gave my brother tickets to that game where he dunked over that dude, like over him.
Right.
And it was against Boston.
Yeah.
And my brother was happy about that for about 7 months, that he got to be there in that game. And there was a time where you couldn't give Clipper tickets away. So Blake made a significant.
I think Darius Miles maybe was probably the better power forward.
You got to go Darius Miles.
Yeah, because he was fun to watch, and he was when they were bad.
Yes.
And then I still got a center, right? And you're gonna laugh at this, but the reason why I'm picking this name is because he's the tallest guy to ever play for a Clipper, so he got a lot of blocks.
Okay.
Keith Kloss.
I have no problems with that.
You know
I thought you might go Chris Kaman just to mix it up.
Right.
But yeah, I have no problems with that. I actually like Keith Kloss.
Yeah.
I have a we're in super avid basketball territory.
I know. We're gonna get to comedy, I swear.
Yeah, we will get to comedy, but this is great. For people that care about specific Clipper history, this is fantastic. I have an autographed Keith Kloss card.
Do you really?
Holy! I searched for. I found it at a card convention or something. It didn't cost me a lot, but I felt like I did something.
Oh, that's awesome!
I added that to the collection. I'm like, it is weird the depths of my Clipper knowledge. I was going to say Nicholas Batum is maybe a good Clipper.
Yeah. Oh wait, I still get a 6 man because you got 6.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me think about this. I think I gotta go with Q Richardson because
I don't mind that.
Because he was a guy who was probably the best shooter or talented.
Yes.
But,
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I was gonna suggest Brent Barry.
Oh my God, I forgot about Brent Barry. Yeah.
Yes.
The one year the Clippers made the playoffs and they lost to the Jazz.
Yes.
97, 98.
I also liked Sam Cassell. Sam I Am is a good Clipper.
Oh yeah, he was a great Clipper.
Yeah. That dude, I really know this stuff.
No, this is awesome. So it's interesting that we're talking about basketball because the two biggest NBA trades that just really destroyed my life was, and I'll be honest, I don't think I have a team anymore because of these trades. So like, I feel these teams aren't loyal to me like I am to them.
Right.
But I was a huge Laker fan because of Eddie Jones.
Eddie Jones is awesome.
He was the best.
Eddie Jones is awesome.
And they traded him on March 10th, 1999. And I know that date because that was the day I was diagnosed with autism and I was crying. Wow. And my dad was like, Keith, it's okay. It's just, it's nothing. And I was like, but the Lakers just traded Eddie Jones.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing I was crying about.
Yes. Yeah.
And we were a very poor family and we had tickets to go see Eddie Jones play the Warriors in April. So it was like, now I can't see Eddie Jones play. You know what I mean? It was devastating.
That's when they traded him to Charlotte, right?
For Glenn Rice.
For Glenn Rice, yes. Yeah.
And then this trade just happened because my favorite player in the league right now is probably Julius Randle, and the Knicks traded him to the Wolves. I'm just like, like this guy brought excitement to New York. He was probably the most exciting player since Jeremy Lin. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he was a workhorse that the Lakers gave up on that really, I think he went to New York with a chip on his shoulder and was like, yo, I'm going to show you, you made a huge mistake. Like, I, I love New York. I love when New York is relevant in
Yeah.
the NBA because I think it makes the league better. And so this trade is interesting because my daughter is very close to Jordan Woods, who dates Carl Anthony Town.
Oh my
So
God.
I get a lot of Minnesota info through them. And, I root for Cat.
Right.
So I think that this is going to be a really interesting trade in terms of where Cat goes from here. Like
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him. I think, if it all comes together and this team meshes, they can really make a lot of noise in the East and rival the upper level teams.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. I like that the mix is in there, and it'll be interesting to see if Julius Randle meshes with the superstar at Minnesota, Anthony Edwards. Like Anthony Edwards is like he's blowing up right now. We'll see how that meshes.
So Anthony Edwards, I think he's a good player. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I think that this blow up year was just a good season. I don't think he's gonna.
Really, you don't think he can sustain it?
No, because it's kind of like Latrell Sprewell. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Sprewell was good with the Warriors, but he wasn't
Yes.
great, and he
Yeah.
became great when he was with the Knicks. And
Yep.
then once he went to the Wolves, he kind of went back to his Warrior thing.
Sure.
So I think maybe.
Well,
I mean,
they're trying to make Ant the face of the league,
yeah.
of the future. We'll see. We'll see.
I think
Yeah, we'll see.
I think if you ever want to do this podcast again next year, I'll make a bet with you. I think Randall's gonna, if he's healthy, I think he's gonna beat the points on Edwards. And
Really?
yeah,
You
for sure.
think he's going to come in and be that alpha number one option?
If he's healthy and he plays the
If he's
full
healthy.
season, yes,
Huh?
for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll take that bet. I'll take
All
that
right.
bet.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll go.
Yeah, we'll revisit.
We'll revisit. Then we'll
Yeah.
go to Wingstop, and I'll buy you wings.
Yeah. That's what the bet should be. The bet should be for who pays for Wingstop.
Yeah. And then, or
like
the bet
that.
should be like, who hangs out with Paul George or whatever. Well, he's with
Yeah.
Philadelphia now, so he won't be
Yeah.
there.
Well, I do travel.
Okay, we'll go to a Philadelphia Wingstop.
Yes. Well, we're going to Philly. We might as well get a cheesesteak. Like, let's not. Let's
Oh,
not
yeah,
do
that's
that.
true. Okay.
Yeah.
Depending
Like,
on whatever.
why would we
steak.
deprive ourselves of that?
Oh, my God. All right. So now back to comedy.
Wow. But that was enjoyable. Like, talk about way to grease the wheel.
I know.
You
Well,
got me
because-
talking basketball, which has loosened me up. So comedy should be a breeze.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is like I've seen you at the Improv and the Laugh Factory doing sets, and I think you have the best laugh, and it's all that. And then I was like, okay, so but I've never like actually met you, so it's like, okay, maybe.
Yes, yeah, it's funny. Like when you reached out, like I was like, yeah, I guess, and you know what I mean. But like now, I feel like we have a connection, so we're probably going to run into each other a lot now, and we'll be like, oh, great, you know what I mean? Like comedy's like that, though, like. You can be around it and in it. And I've been doing it for so long that like when I first started, I started when I was in college, right?
Yeah.
So like I literally was the dude that had my backpack on in the club for no reason. That would just kind of like be in the mix, but I wasn't really like you would have definitely missed me. I was under the radar. You know what I mean? I was
that's what I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, we needed this podcast.
We needed this.
Yes. This is bigger than both of us.
But I mean, I will say I dropped the backpack thing for a while, because like I don't bring a backpack anymore, but I used to.
Yes.
But then like
that means you're a real comic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the backpack comics are the ones that end up winning.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
But you ever realize like what was in your backpack? I'll tell you what was in mine.
Okay. What was in yours?
Okay, an emergency $20 bill
Nice.
because you never know if your car gets towed and you need to buy a cab. Back in these days when I started, they had cabs. Now it's Uber, but
Yes.
I had
Yes.
the
Yes.
emergency
Yeah. You
20.
needed that 20.
Plus, you never know if you see a cheap hooker. You know what I mean? Something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, yeah,
So,
sure. It's comedy.
uh, and then I had like three kind of like notebooks like these, but bigger ones, so just jokes and
Yes.
ideas.
Yes.
And I had one book that said ideas and the other book for jokes. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
wow. Oh,
Yeah.
you like really separated the two.
Yeah, because I'm on the spectrum, so like
Yes.
that's how I kind of
That's how your process is.
yeah, that's when how
So
I
you have
write.
like initial ideas where you go, I'm this is just an idea, and
Right.
then when it becomes an actual joke, it
It
goes into
goes in the joke book.
oh wow.
Yeah. All the
That's
ideas may be in the joke book, but the
yeah.
jokes are never in the idea book. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially like I mean I don't get TV writings anymore because, my best
Well,
friend
nobody
died.
does
But
because
yeah.
yeah,
But I mean,
the business is over. That's
yeah. But when I wrote for Norm, that's how I did the exact same thing. So like it was kind of like that, just
yeah.
ideas, jokes. So, and then the other thing that was in my backpack was like like a what's it fucking called? It's where you put like pens in and they keep them from not moving around. It's like a box.
Oh yeah, like those pouches.
Yeah, but it was like a box, like an actual box that just had pens in it.
Oh wow. Oh,
Yeah.
you took it very old school.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't
Yeah.
know what it was called, like a pen holder. Maybe that's not even what
Yeah.
it's called.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I don't know what the name is, but that
yeah,
sounds very yeah, you were rich kidding.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I in
guess.
my backpack I would have like it was close to college, so I'd always have a book that I was reading because when I first started, I didn't have a car, so I used to take the bus to the improv.
Yeah.
And so I'd have some book that I was reading. I would have a joke book, like kind of like a joke book gut diary sort of thing, where I would have jokes in there. I would have ideas in there. I would also like sketch in there. So that was my initial joke book. I always had like snacks,
Yeah.
because you're sitting around a comedy club in the back of the room for a long time. So I definitely had I was big on the little candies like, the lemon heads or the hot tamales
Oh
or
my God, the
yeah,
Laffy Taffies.
yeah, Laffy Taffies. Reese's Pieces was a major one.
Oh yeah.
And then I was also like I was ahead of the curve in terms of like bottled water.
Oh yeah.
So I would have bottled water.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that and then maybe if I went to the card shop that day, I might have a basketball card.
Oh, that Keith Kloss card.
Yeah, I might have that Keith Claus auto up in the mix. You never know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my backpack. And I remember I used to in the comedy clubs, it wasn't my school backpack, it was more like my comedy travel backpack, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
that's awesome. Then what you said about the water was very interesting because I feel like when I started comedy, I feel comedians didn't really drink water on
Nope.
stage or whatever. It was all about alcohol.
Yep. Yep.
And
Because
and
you wanted to feel like you were fitting in with everybody.
yeah,
And
but
then, what was weird? Like, when did you start?
well, I mean, my first open mic was probably 2002,
Okay.
but I didn't start until like keep doing it over and over again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Until
Yeah.
2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't,
So you
so
tested the waters early.
well, I was a young kid,
Yeah.
like I was, uh, 15 or 16. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I started, but I don't say because I still feel I was still like because I wanted to do acting and stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of those weird questions where like I don't want to say I've done this when I didn't, but I did. You know what
Sure.
I mean?
Sure. Sure. Sure.
So I always say that I have 20 to 22 years under my belt.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number.
Yeah. 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 That makes sense. I get that.
Yeah.
And then, like, did you feel like starting young helped you or hurt you?
Well, so that's an interesting question. Well, because I was very nonverbal because I have autism, Asperger's syndrome,
Yeah.
and I did my very first show. Like I always got picked on and stuff. And there was a mom and pop coffee shop on my house,
Uh-huh.
and so like I was walking home and they said best joke wins $20 open mic night.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I did that. That was my first time doing it. I told one joke, and the joke was, I'm always getting picked on in school by this kid named Josh, and he tells me if I tell anyone, he'll kill me. That's very serious stuff. So I came home with all these bruises and marks, and my dad was like, Keith, what happened? I was like, oh, Josh did this, but I told the school you did it. Like, you know what I mean?
I like it.
So,
I like it. Throw your dad under the bus.
yeah. So I won $20 that night.
That's
Like
great.
the first time, and I was like,
First time.
$20 for a kid is like a
It's
thousand
unbelievable.
dollars.
Yes, it might be even more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I am funny. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
And then I went to more speech therapies and just watched comedy. And so, like, that's how
Yeah.
I learned how to really talk better. I mean, I still have a stutter sometimes, but like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
how I got into comedy because
Yeah.
of bulliness and humiliation.
Sure.
You
Sure.
know?
Which is, there's value in that.
Yeah. But so did it help me as a young comic starting? I would say it helped me to learn how to how to speak and socialize better. But
Right. Right.
I don't think it helped me with like material.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So it was definitely an exercise.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who were the comics that you gravitated towards or styles that you liked back then?
And see, that's another interesting thing is because my favorite comic of all time was Norm Macdonald,
Yeah. You mentioned
and
that earlier.
he
That
became
you
my best friend.
That's great.
And I
It's
think like
funny that you say that. This is going to sound strangely connected, but right before we started this, I was on social media and I just watched this Norm Macdonald interview with Letterman right after he got fired from Weekend Update.
yeah.
And I don't know why, but I just watched that right before we started this. And
Oh
it
my
made me
God.
think like fondly about Norm and miss him. Like I was fairly close with Norm. We would end up on the road together at times. And, like we both were in San Francisco probably towards the right before he passed.
Right.
And he was at Cobb's. I was working somewhere else and went by the show and we hung out and talked comedy. And at the time, it was when Patrice O'Neill was still alive.
Oh,
And he was so into Patrice. He was like, I think Patrice is the best comic working right now. And it
oh
was just
yeah.
very interesting for somebody as good as Norm to blindly give it up to another comic. Like a lot of comics have a hard time giving it up to someone else. But I just remember this being such a great conversation and his willingness to just give it up to another comic.
No, I've heard him say stuff like that before because Patrice O'Neill was one of his favorite comics,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I remember one time he was like, "Hey, Keith, I just had this weird dream, that I was black, I was like, oh, okay." And he's like, "Yeah, if I was black, I think I would name myself Patrice O'Neill, you know what I mean? Because I'd be the best comic ever, you know."
That's great. That's great.
And so like,
It's really hard for comics to give it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like the ones
yeah.
that are secure in themselves, they can kind of look at the landscape and see who's doing it the right way. And, sometimes it's not even contingent on who's the most popular or selling the most tickets. But, I think in like in the case with Norm Macdonald, Norm was so revered. Like, the times that I hung out with him just to see people like they really love that guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like really love that guy. And he could do no wrong uh on stage and off, which was which was also interesting to be around and take in and still have like real conversations. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're not just a fly on the wall watching somebody's fame. This was a little deeper than just fame. It was a real, like his fans had a real emotional connection with him.
And the reason for that is because, I think there's other performers who have this skill. Like I think Tiffany Haddish is one of them.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Norm was very fearless.
sure,
So
absolutely.
like, I feel in comedy, it's, I think when you do stand up, you're always going to have one type of fear, like, oh, what if I bomb or what if I get
Yeah,
canceled or something like that.
yeah,
But Norm just really didn't care. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
sure, sure.
So
And his
I,
point of view was so different, and his style was different, and his, his comedic approach was different. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like he was unique enough, and his skill set was so high that it's very similar to I mean, you see it every now and again. You see comics that have that same. Hedberg had that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even today, his material is still so highly regarded that that connection with his fan base. I remember I did a weekend with him in Tempe at the Tempe Improv, and
Yeah.
like at that time, you're just trying to work where you can. You want to prove what your skill set is, but then when you go work with somebody that has this built-in following where they love this person, it's a whole different energy.
Oh, for
It's a
sure.
whole, yeah. I mean, that they appreciate you, but they love the person they came to see.
Yeah. And another thing where I think I kind of connect with you in a weird way, even though this is our first time meeting, is my relationship with Norm was so special where like he was like my comedy dad. And I know you had a relationship with Gary Shandling where he was
Yes,
very
yes.
so
Yeah, he was
like
like he was like a mentor, a friend, a brother. Like I felt like with Gary, we saw the world very similarly. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like and that was like, he was a Buddhist and very much a change agent. I met him I guest starred on the Larry Sanders Show.
yeah,
And I was a comic at that time. I loved the Larry Sanders Show. Like it was a show that I thought was one of the best shows on TV. I still think that it resonates today. Like I loved it, the fact that all the characters were grounded in reality.
yeah,
The backdrop of a late night show and how these people all interact together. Like everything about it just it aligned with like, oh man, this dude is moving the meter, right? And
yeah.
so when I guest starred on that show, usually as a guest star, you're like a hired hand. You come in, you're almost like a six man off the bench. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you come
Yeah.
in, you're supposed to put some points up and put pressure on the defense and take some shots, hit those shots, and then you're gone, right?
Right.
And so I literally expected, my experience to be you come in, you get in where you fit in, and you're done. And I ended up getting into a conversation with Gary while on set. We were talking about Muhammad Ali, right? And Gary was a big Muhammad Ali fan. I'm a big Muhammad Ali fan as well. And
Yeah.
so that was our bonding point. But we had a 2-hour conversation just based on our shared, you know, uh, love of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And it went and it was like Gary became an instant friend.
Yeah.
I ended up getting invited to play in his Sunday game, which was invite only. There was one rule about the game, which was you don't talk about the game. So it was like Fight Club, but with better jokes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
and it was this cool group of comics and people in the business, and so I played in that game, up until Gary's death, and over that span of 18 years, we just became closer friends. I was around him quite a bit during the last couple years of his life. We were writing a series together based on his journals. Gary kept journals his
Yeah.
entire comedy career.
It was in his backpack.
Yeah, they were, yes. Well, Gary didn't have a backpack, but he did keep them. Like if you, I don't know if you've seen Judd Apatow's documentary about Gary,
Yeah.
but it starts with Gary finding his journals, right? Right. And that was something that we shot to use for this series that we were writing.
Yeah.
So when you see him discovering his journals, that's him actually discovering where he hid his journals, which is great. But yeah, I really loved Gary, and I felt like I was given such a gift in that friendship. And it's really important as an artist to have a strong mentor in your life.
Oh, for sure. And I feel a lot of people don't understand that.
No, they don't. They don't. And being able to have somebody that does what you do and is successful, but also grounded in the way where they care about that thing, it's invaluable. It's
Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah.
Like I've had experiences post Gary's death where I hear conversations that we had, and
Oh
his
my God.
ability is still there to help me navigate these things.
Same here. Like I mean, not with Gary, but with Norm. Like
Yeah.
I still like it replays in my head with whatever problem I'm going through on whatever show, or
Yes.
even life problem.
Yeah.
It's like a podcast that's still stuck in my head.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, and that also speaks to the value of mentorship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they remain a guide in your life to help keep you on path.
Yeah, definitely. That's so awesome, man. But I wanted to ask you one more Gary question, and if you don't want to answer this, no worries, just pass it. But do you have a hard time like watching him or listening to interviews? He's like, does it like make you sad or does it make you at
No,
peace?
I think I just have this healthy appreciation about how lucky I was. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like even times I'll go into the comedy store and just stand in that hallway, and his pictures in the hallway, or in the OR, his name is in neon lights on the side of the club there. So
yeah,
even just seeing that brings me a sense of calm. And the jokes are still great. um the Comedy and Magic Club, as you get off stage, there's a photo of Gary right there, and you see, when they post pictures, a lot of comics next to that photo, and in that photo he's holding up a yellow legal pad, because he used to write all his stuff on legal pads, right?
yeah.
And the legal pad says "now free," which is so great. Like every time I walk into the Comedy and Magic Club, I feel like I'm reconnecting to the days when I would leave Gary's house to drive down there to do a set, and he would impress upon me, are you talking about what's going on in your real life? Like he was always very connected to you bringing your full self on stage. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, you're doing an act, you're doing jokes, but are you really talking about what's going on in your life at this moment? Like it was always about being present and real and purposeful. And those things they're necessaries in an ever changing business.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, are you a little scared that Richard's going to take that photo and replace it with the Pooh Richardson photo I'm going to bring him?
Well, you should be so lucky.
uh, but
Yeah, Richard had sent me. He was going through some emails, and he sent me recently an email from Gary where he mentions me in the email,
oh
and
my God.
just being able to reread it, like it made me so happy. Just that, like it just when you get those kind of, like, I feel like those kind of things are it's that otherly universal thing connecting back to you that, hey, it's going to be okay, and just keep doing what you're doing. And like, the email was hilarious and and weird like Gary, but it was just like, it came at the perfect time. It was one of those things where it was like, man, I needed that.
Yeah, I've seen emails like that where because when you BCC someone, it gets sent to you, you know,
Yes,
and
yes,
I and
yes,
I I feel maybe Norm didn't know that, or maybe he did, but he wasn't trying to send me something.
yes,
So the what happened was Norm told the improv, I'm not gonna say which one, but it was an improv club in California that he wants
yes,
me to open up for him. And then
yeah.
they responded that, oh, they don't think I'm funny. They think I'm just an open micer and they don't want me on the show. And
Wow.
then Norm responded, well, then I guess I'm not doing the show. And
Love it.
their mood totally changed.
Of course it did. Of
You know
course
what I
it did.
mean? And
And that,
he,
like, dude, that right there speaks to why it's important to have that relationship.
yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
the fact that I
And
saw those emails, like I was very hurt by the improv because I always thought I had a good relationship with them.
right,
And this
right.
is what they really think of me. But the
Yes,
fact that Norm's willing to give up a 20K gig,
sure,
you know what I
sure.
mean?
Sure, yeah, dude. Yeah, it shows your value to him
Yeah,
and the value of your friendship. You know
uh,
what I mean? Which that is, you can't put a price on that.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, you definitely can't put a price on that. And it's, you're always going to get these, the business will always humble you. You know what I mean? Because you think, "Oh, cool, I'm, people like me, I'm good, it's all good." And then you get you get these situations where you're reminded, "Oh yeah, they don't really care about me." You know what I mean?
yeah. And what is up with that? Like, is it,
That
I, like, it's very political, but it's not like, I don't know why. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, it does make sense. Like, it's like, I remember when I used to audition for acting jobs, and, like, your agents would call for feedback, right?
yeah,
And, like, sometimes I'd get a call back, sometimes I wouldn't, or sometimes I get close to getting the job. And when you call for feedback, it's always like, "Oh, he was great. Everything's great." So it's
yeah,
like, everything wasn't great. If everything was great, I would have got the job. You,
right.
you know what I
Well,
mean? So there's this
exactly.
level of dishonesty that is just part of the territory. It's like, and it may have nothing to do with anything you did in that audition room. You know what I mean? Like, it took me a while to learn this, but I think comedy is so subjective, and it's so heat driven, that all you can control is what you do on stage. You know what I mean?
Right,
All you can control is being the most authentic, funny version of yourself. Everything else is out of your control. And that means perception of people that think you're funny or don't think you're funny. Like, you're going to have your people that root for you and find opportunities for you. And you're also going to have people that you feel like, oh, they never quite get you. You know what I mean?
right.
You have to sort of put all that aside and just focus on the goal at hand, which is just getting better and being the best version of yourself.
And
Everything
you,
else doesn't matter.
and I'm sorry, I thought I heard you said you just learned that. Did you just learn this?
Well, I
Because,
just learned to be okay with it.
oh,
You know
okay.
what I mean? Like, there was a time where earlier on in my career, I was more, I would take stuff really hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, and I would take slights hard. Like, I remember, they used to have, the Aspen Comedy Festival. And, I didn't make it the first year. And I was like, but I'm so ready. And then by the time I finally made it, I almost didn't care about it. And, the Montreal Festival was the same way. Like, there were these markers that, you have to jump through these hoops, and, people have to validate you in a way that it's all so subjective that it's got very little to do with what you're doing on stage. And so I used to take those slights very personal. Now I'm just like, yo, I've decided to do this. This is my life work. So
yeah.
either you get it or you don't. You know what I mean?
Well, and I also don't know how it was when you started, but when I started, there was a lot of jealousy because it was more like punky comedy where
Hmm.
like roast battle and stuff I don't really like because it's
Yeah,
like it's very mean spirited and
sure,
the meaner
sure.
you are, the
The
more
better. Yeah.
accepted you are.
Yes.
And it's
I've
like,
I've I've judged roast battle a couple of times,
yeah,
and I like everybody that does it, but you do have to have a special skill where the meanest thing you say is the best thing. You know what I mean? Like you got to destroy somebody in roast battle. And I think
yeah,
the first time I did it, I left feeling really dejected because I was like, I wasn't mean enough. You know what I mean?
right.
But I don't want to be mean to people. I don't want to crush their spirit. Like this business crushes your spirit as is. You know what I mean? Like you don't need a fellow comic doing that to you when you're still trying to discover who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. And I will admit where like I've had jealous where like, oh, for example, like Taylor Tomlinson,
Hmm.
I think she's great. And
Yeah,
she started very young and stuff, but when she started, this is before she got all her success. She was still like a megastar, and I didn't really see that. You know what I mean?
sure,
So I
sure.
was very jealous of her, but I still liked her, and I
Right,
didn't like
right.
want ill. But now that she's a megastar, I'm happy for her, but I kind of feel like I don't understand. I understand the hype now, but I didn't understand the hype then. Does that make sense?
Sure, sure. Yes, yes,
So
yes.
like that's
Yeah, but
that.
there's so many components of that that have nothing to do with just, well, these are the jokes she talks about. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
who, like it sort of goes back to what I was saying about Norm and Mitch and Patrice and those guys. They connect in a way where they're often running in their own trajectory. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And nothing's going to stop that. And then having the right managers and having the right push and getting on those short lists where you're the, comics to watch. Like every year they do the 10 comics or 15 comics to watch. Not everybody breaks out,
Oh,
but
definitely.
there
Yeah.
is a list that comes out every year, and the people on that list, you look at them differently. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's the thing about the business, man. It's like it everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own, like, you're gonna get what you get out of this. Like you really can't look in anybody else's backyard. You can, but I think that pulls you away from what you're supposed to be doing.
And I feel like you don't realize that as a comic until you're 10 or 12 years in.
Yep.
You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Yep.
And
And even at, like, for me at this phase, like I'm beyond that, but I just, I control what I can control. Like, here's what I'm talking about. Here's what I'm going through. I'm going to try and come up with the best jokes about this stuff that pertains to me. You may see value in it, or you might not. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
definitely.
the scope of what comedy is so large right now that you're just trying to find your people.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
Man, I
like, I
feel
mean, what's interesting is, like, when I first started, I started during a time where if you did too much crowd work, they would write you off as not having an act.
yeah. And now
And
they
now
want
we're in
that.
a space where crowd work is at a premium.
Hmm.
But I feel like it's to the detriment of the craft of stand up because you can go to a show now and the comics will focus on the audience so much that you leave going, well, I don't know anything about anybody that was on stage. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like they made it about us, which, we're the paying customers. So we got our attention fixed, but I don't know anything about anybody that was on stage.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's, it's a trade off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to respect your time, but I haven't gotten into any of my questions. So
No, no, you can do. We can keep going. Like this is, yeah, this is
but
great. We can keep going.
I do want to respect your time. Are we good for
Yeah,
10 more minutes?
yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, I want you to feel good about what we're doing.
No, no, this was probably better than the questions, to be honest, because I feel like
It
I
flowed.
I feel like I'm connected to you where like I feel like okay, now I could just call you up whenever I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
sure, sure,
I
sure.
so
Within
I
reason, within
yeah,
reason.
yeah, but like so I feel that's better. Now I'm gonna feel so stupid to ask you these questions.
No, dude, like what whatever makes the best podcast.
Uh
But we're already connected, dude. Like I'll tell you, like, full disclosure, sometimes if people reach out to me and I don't know them, my instinct is to say no to their podcast because, it's like I've had people go, "Hey man, come do my podcast. We just smoke weed and talk about nothing." And I'm like, "Well, that doesn't
that's not
why would
me.
I do
Yeah.
that? That's not like that's a waste of all of our time. Like
Yeah.
I want you to at least know a little bit about what I've done. So for the person that is invested in this, they feel like they get something out of it. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like I'm not a time waster.
no. And I'll be honest, this podcast is, I mean, I have like a lot of a good listening rate. I call them the rifters, but
Yeah.
it's mostly for me because my conversation with you, I take what you tell me to help me be a better comic or a better artist or a better
And that's
writer.
what it should be about. Like I
Yeah.
think, that's ultimately, and that connects back to that mentorship thing where I'm so thankful that I had Gary in my life and he took time to mentor me that I feel a sense of responsibility when called and when it makes sense to mentor others
Oh,
and to
yeah.
give others to others.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for saying yes to me. I really do appreciate it.
Of course, dude. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this has been really fun.
Yeah.
And there are times where I've done podcasts where as soon as I got off, I was like, damn, why did I do that shit? You know what I mean? So I don't
Well,
feel that way at all.
all right.
You got me with the Clipper talk.
For all you guys who want
But
to,
I do love that you and Norm were super close because Norm was like I loved Norm too. So
oh, awesome. Oh.
yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you, what do you remember in your years of comedy, your worst road story where like everything went wrong, like the booker's overbooked or something, the hotel didn't have your name, the like just everything was just going on and you're just like fuck. And then the next day you had a good gig.
I have like a couple of stories come to mind. I remember working with this comic out of Oakland named Mitch Mullaney. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if you know Mitch Mullaney. He might be a little before your time, but he had a show on the WB called Nick Freno, right,
Uh,
where he played a teacher. But Mitch Mullaney was hilarious, right? And so I got booked to do one of his home clubs in Northern California.
yeah.
I grew up in Northern California. I've been doing a lot of spots at the Laugh Factory and the Improv, and like I had my little groove, but it was another one of those things where I was working with a dude who was beloved in his hometown, and you want to show out and show that you got chops too. So I went on stage, and there was this dude in the front row that it was his mission to give me a hard time,
Yeah.
right? And so mission accomplished. Like this dude didn't laugh. He was like an agitator. I tried to um, work through it, but when you get mad on stage, sometimes it shuts off your ability to think funny, right?
Right.
So he was so disrespectful. I remember I wanted to fight the dude, right? And I basically ate it that night, like ate it hard, right?
Right.
And then I didn't do my job as a feature to set Mitch up. And so not only was I mad that I was being disrespected and, I got pushed out of my comfort zone of being funny, I also had a bad set. And so
Right.
Mitch went on after me and of course, made fun of me and cleaned it up. This dude that was an asshole to me was great to him because he came to see him. And I remember leaving that night feeling like this went all the way upside down. And it was my first time working this club. and you're trying to impress them enough to get booked back. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
establish a relationship. Like I look at all these opportunities as chances to establish long-term relationships. And so I ate it, dude, and I was mad. And it it went all the way sideways. And that wasn't my normal way of getting down. Like I was I'm a likable guy, like I'm a professional, I respect the clubs, and all of that was out of the window. I just looked like a dude that didn't have it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think the next night, when you have a bad set, it stings, like it hurts you in your heart, but it also, the fact that whenever the next time you go up, you got to correct the situation immediately.
Yeah.
So, you're back in your joke book trying to find out how you can fix it. Your focus is different. And I think, the next few nights I had better, more traditional sets, but that was one of those things where I'll never forget it because, I was excited to work with my friend. We were up in his hometown. Like everything was should have been great and it wasn't.
Right. No, I get
And it
that.
was because I got pushed off my game.
Yeah. It's also like when you have a great set, that wipes it out. Like you're only as good as your
Yeah,
last
yeah,
set.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's happened like it's gonna happen. That's the thing about stand up. No matter how good you get at it, like, you're gonna eat it at some
Yeah.
point. And it may be like you learn how to lessen the pain of it, but you still feel it in your heart.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I had, I mean, I didn't have a similar experience like that, but last night I was headlining the Madhouse Comedy Club and they liked me there. I
Oh
usually,
yeah, is that in San Diego?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's a fun room. I like it, but
yeah.
it's a C club, which,
Right.
I mean, I'm a C comic, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know. But
yeah.
so like there's 40 people there and there's this table of girls where they just weren't laughing at anything.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of got to me. And like
Right.
I really do avoid eye contact because I can't see facial expressions, but I was
Right.
just noticing like I'm not getting good energy from them. And I didn't go off on them, but I just said, "Hey, I just want you to know, thank you for spending your Wednesday night with me, and I'm sorry that I disappointed."
Really?
And for some reason that just made me feel like, hey, I apologized to them, but I thanked them. And I thought it was a safe spot. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what I would say to that is just hearing that, A, whatever room you're working at, I wouldn't define it as A, B, or C rooms.
Right.
If you're in a room
We'll
because
edit
it's like
that.
a gym, right? No, but like I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like it's a gym. They're all gyms. It's just
Oh
gyms
yeah, yeah.
get better. You're just getting your reps in, right? And I don't know if I would cop to disappointing them because you're giving them too much power. Like
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think it's okay for them not to laugh, but you're still a professional and this is your job and they've come to see you. There's a reason you're on stage. And I think it is perfectly within your right to own that.
Yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
I wish we would have talked before this happened because now I feel bad for saying, but in the
No, but it's something that you can learn from this moment on. Like I'm never going to apologize for my craft.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, because I'm also going to do as many things as I can to validate what I do. Like, I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to be excited about being there. There may be things that might be wrong within the room, but I still have a job to do, Like, so that's one takeaway that you can take moving forward is, hey, this is my profession. This is what I do. I care about this. I'm good at this.
Yeah.
And what they think kind of doesn't matter.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
yeah.
and I think you have to find that sweet spot of being comfortable in your own skin and Damon Wayans said this years ago. He said, when I go up on stage, the audience is just a barometer to what I'm doing. And it's
Yeah,
nothing more than that. You know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
And you do have to have that confidence. You have to have such a almost psychotic belief in yourself.
Yeah.
All that
Like,
stuff. Like, like who cares about those girls? They're off on living their life. You
no, for
still are a
sure.
stand-up.
And having this conversation, I'm thinking in my head, what if next year when I come back to the club and they're back, I'm going to think to myself, well, they're really hardcore fans.
Yes. Yeah, dude. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
I mean, I've been in situations, dude, where I've been on stage, it's gone weirdly left, and it's not what I wanted or I would have liked, but then people still come up to you and they're like, we're such a fan of yours. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking internally, man, I wish you would have got a regular show.
right.
But sometimes they get what they get.
Yeah. All right. Well, then my second to last question is,
Okay.
this is probably going to be the most random question you're ever going to get. So
Okay.
I do
Okay.
apologize.
All
Or
right.
maybe you've heard the.
Don't
Hold on,
apologize.
okay, I'm not going to
Don't
apologize.
apologize. Like, just shoot.
Okay. So in the cable guy, you were playing basketball, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and it makes sense because you're an avid basketball.
I'm an avid basketball fan. What is the other descriptive word that you can use other than avid?
I don't know. I just read it. I was like, that's a word I've heard, but I really don't know what it means.
Yes. But have I not proven that I'm avid?
Oh no!
Even if you don't know what avid means, you're like, well, Suli is kind of avid about basketball.
I'm gonna be like, this is why I connect with it, because I'm avid too. I don't know. I'm gonna put that in my bio now. But in the cable guy, you played basketball.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, who was the worst basketball player in that thing? Was Jim Carrey terrible, Jack Black, or Matthew Broderick?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Jim wasn't great.
Yeah.
But Jim was making $20 million for that movie.
Right.
So that skews that skews it a little bit. I don't think Matthew Broderick really played. And I don't really think Jack Black really played. Right. So the funny thing about that scene was Ben Stiller directed that movie, right? Yeah. And so he had called me up and he was like, hey, there's this basketball scene in Cable Guy, and will you be in it? And I was like, absolutely, right? So
I love basketball.
Yes, I love it. I'm avid. Are you kidding? So when we shot that scene, like, it's less actual playing of basketball and more choreography for the shots, right? Yeah. And you have time to kind of shoot around a little bit, like in between stuff, but you don't want to over sweat because you got to shoot all day and there's close-ups and all that. So it's way more technical than it is fun. Yeah. But I do remember the day we shot that scene, just like how fun it was to be there as Jim Carrey was at his most red hot superstarness. You know what I mean? Like, that was right after Ace Ventura, when this was his first big payday, and he literally had the $20 million man glow about him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which that was really cool to see, especially coming from knowing him in the early years of In Living Color. So it was like you were excited. Like, I don't know about you, but I definitely feel a sense of connection to the comedy community. And when people that have been in the mix blow up and get their shine, like you were saying with Taylor Tomlinson, there's something that feels good about it to me. Like, I'm not a hater in that sense where, I root for us to win.
Yeah. You want to hear, you want to see a cool Asperger superpower?
Sure.
I'll tell you just a joke from that story you just told me.
Yeah.
All right. Might not be good, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
You're taking the risk.
I'm taking the risk.
You can't set it up as might not be good.
But
okay, but go ahead. Go.
This is just from a writer. Like I'm going to tell you as a stand-up, but from a writer, I'm just saying. Anyway.
Okay, yeah.
So Jim Carrey got paid $20 million for the Cable Guy, and he had a basketball scene.
Yeah.
Can you believe this? He got paid $20 million and he never hit 1 3.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
You're connecting it back to the real athletes.
Exactly.
I like it. I'll tell you something else about The Cable Guy. The Cable Guy was one of those movies that I remember going to a screening, like a cast and crew screening.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie didn't end up initially doing that great, right? But seeing the movie, I was fine with it because I was like, oh, this movie's going to age well.
Right.
Like it over the years, I knew it was one of those movies that had like a cult status and a cult following, and the movie itself holds its own. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And the box office of it didn't really matter.
Yeah. I'm friends with Andy Dick, and
Yeah.
he was in The Cable Guy, and
Yes.
I remember he was in Huntington Beach doing a comedy show. I was just like, hey, we should just go to Medieval Times because they filmed that scene in that Medieval Times.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love Medieval Times. I get in for free. I was in The Cable Guy, like all that stuff. And he's like trying. So here's the story. So we go to Medieval Times. His picture's on the thing, right? They didn't let him in. They're like, oh
what?
no, yeah. So
why?
I don't know. Maybe if he was just
did he do something? Did he pull his junk out at Medieval Times?
Maybe when he was filming it, I don't know. Okay. But he made it seem like he was like God.
Like he was the man. Like he was the mayor there.
And it was one of those funniest backstory things I've ever It was kind of worth the drive to Brenna Park just to watch him get rejected.
Yeah, that's pretty great. We actually, I was in The Cable Guy with Charlie Sheen and Niskasi Akinski.
Oh, the terminal
velocity. Yeah, right. The part that I played, it actually came down to Andy Dick and I getting that part, and I ended up getting that part over Andy Dick.
So, oh my God! Holy
yeah, wow. little spicy controversy. And I can go to Medieval Times whenever I want.
Exactly. That's
yeah. So take that.
I think you won that.
Yeah. Well, to the victor go the spoils. To the avid basketball fan go the spoils.
And then my last question for you, we'll end it on a basketball question, is which basketball player do you think would be a good stand-up comedian?
Just off the top, I think John Sally is probably my go-to, my first bet answer.
Yeah.
Because his sense of humor is really sharp. And he likes to needle people. Like he likes to see how witty you are. I think he would be a great stand-up. I think Shaq has comedy chops, of course, obviously. Right. He would be a great stand-up. Modern players still playing in the game today. People like Ant's sense of humor. He might be a good stand-up. Yeah. But I do think the fact that he's a shooting guard and he's 6'3", 6'4", that's a little intimidating. Like with muscle, you have to have a little bit of a flaw about you,
sure.
if you're gonna be a good stand-up. He's like a little too yoked to pull it.
I never said they had to be good stand-ups.
So they could just be stand-ups. Okay. Trying to think who else. Oh, you know what? That I don't know if you listen to Jeff Teague's podcast.
Oh yeah.
I think he'd be a great stand-up because he already has that. He's got that mischievous thing in him. Yeah. So those are my NBA players as stand-ups.
Yeah, Jeff T, man, he was a guy that he should have been bigger as a player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was really talented.
Yeah, no, he was very talented. And the fact that you're like discovering his personality now, it's like it's interesting when guys like that don't really get their shine while they're playing, but then they get they get it in another way. Like that has been the good thing about podcasts is you really get to see a whole nother side of people. Yeah. But I do feel like podcasts happen at the right time because I don't know if I would be into like Pete Rose's podcast.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like there's some people that you're like, let me just keep the myth about you alive as opposed to who you really are, you know?
Well, can I share my 3 answers? Because I think you'll
Yes,
like
please.
these.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Josh Hart.
Oh, you know what? I haven't listened to Josh Hart talk a lot. Like now that he's with the Knicks,
Yeah.
he's getting more interviews because him and Brunson are close. But I haven't paid attention to him like
But
that.
his style is just kind of funny, even though it's
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
I think he would be a good stand-up,
Yeah.
right? Or okay stand-up.
Okay.
And then my second answer would be Cherokee Parks.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
You know?
that's wild right there.
Because he played wild when he was playing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I could see that.
But would he be funnier than like a Brian Scalabrine?
He might be on the same level, to be honest.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad.
But maybe it's because of his tattoos. They were colorful. I don't know.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. That's an interesting person. I like both of these. And then who's your third?
Then I was going to say Chris the Birdman Anderson.
You know what? I had a feeling you were going to go there when you said tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Birdman would be a great stand-up because you know he's got some stories.
Yeah.
You know who else would be a good stand-up? Now that I'm just thinking about it, I think Ron Artest, Meta World Peace.
Oh, yeah.
Great stand-up.
Yeah.
You know, because he's got a little crazy. You know who would be a terrible stand-up?
Who?
Malcolm Brogdon.
Malcolm Broadley.
Malcolm Brogdon. Do you know who that is?
No.
He's a guard. He's super serious. He
does he play today?
Yeah, he plays now. He plays today. He was.
Can I Google him real fast?
Yeah, Malcolm Brogdon. Yeah, Google him.
Because maybe I know his face.
You might know his face, but he would be. He probably would not be a good stand-up because
he plays for the Celtics.
Yes, yeah. He just got traded to the Celtics, right?
Yeah. He played
but
for
he's
the
very
Pacers.
serious. He would make a great politician or civil rights leader, but not a good stand-up.
Yeah. Well, hey.
So I went.
You went over on that question.
I went Avid basketball on you.
Yeah. Okay. Who do I think would be a terrible stand-up basketball player? I would say Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, because he wasn't even good in Last Dance.
Yeah.
He was good, but good for the wrong reasons.
Well,
I always like when athletes use sound effects instead of words. And remember when he's explaining like the theory of rebounding, he's like, and then bing boom, you know, and then boom, bing, and then bing. And you're like, we don't know what that means.
I didn't even know there was a theory of rebounding.
No, it's like in The Last Dance, he explains it. It's hilarious because he's not using words at all. Just boom, and then boom, bing, and bing, bing, boom, bip, and then boom.
Yeah.
Got it?
Well, where can the folks at home follow and support you? Like, do you have an Instagram?
I am on all social media platforms as of right now. I'm still on X, formerly known as Twitter, and it's under my name, Suli McCullough, SuliMcCullough, my full name. I'm also on Instagram that way, and you know, if you're old and you want to do Facebook, sure, the same way. You can just find me under my name. I thought about like being Suli Mac, but I think I'd be a totally different comedian. So I just use my full name.
All right. Well, Suli, thank you so much for talking to me, and thank you for saying yes. And,
yes, dude, this was great. I enjoyed it.
And we'll talk next year for those Philly cheesesteaks.
Yes. The Philly cheesesteaks or Wingstop. One of the
exactly. How cool would it be if the finals this year was the Knicks and the Wolves?
That would be incredible. Dude, we would need to be in Vegas right now putting money on that.
I'm free right now. You want to go to Vegas?
It's well, let's see. I got a show on Friday. Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. All right. Well, I'll pick you up soon, man.
Oh, great.
On my way.
Great.
All right, buddy. Well, have a good day. This was
really fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good day. And next time I see you at a show, I'll come up and say hey.
Please do. Please do.
All right, buddy.
I'll
see you later.
Later.
All right, guys, that was the episode. Subscribe, review, and we'll see you guys next week. And take care.